One of the things I thought we could do today is to travel a bit beyond the grave area that I showed you before. And I only walk along the edges. It's a weird thing, I know, but I don't walk on it. I don't know where. I think it comes from when I was a kid and we would go to funerals or things when my mother would always make a big deal about not walking on the graves, to walk around them. And so that stuck with me. I love trees. But as I've told you all, I leave much of this completely wild. The reason for that is, well, first of all, it's good for the soil. Rotting trees and all the leaves and these things, they add beneficial nutrients back to the soil. And a lot of people clear them. They don't like it like this. And I understand. I live a pretty well-groomed area too. But I don't need that in my life as much as I need nature to be free to do what it wants. I love that. And but anyway, where I was going with that, dead trees provide home and shelter for a lot of animals, insects. So I just leave them. This is an old tree here and a very long, you can see it goes on and on. This was a very big old tree and it had enough and fell over. And I've left it. This is a wild rose. I have several of them on the property. I'm afraid this one didn't do well this year because, again, the drought. I hope it survives and comes back. I think it will. This is generally covered rose hips. I was showing some of them in the potpourri that I made yesterday. They were from this plant from last year. And there is some new growth on it. I see right up there, that's new rose growth. So I have high hopes that it will come back in the new year and be much, recovered. I feel safe in the woods. And that's true of most any woods. Less so in ones that have bears. But in these, I feel pretty darn safe. So here's a story I'll tell you. If you ever wonder why Patrick's messed up, this has nothing to do with abuse. So I want to preface this. This isn't about child abuse. This isn't about child rape. None of those things. This is about murder. So you may want to stop the video at this point. When I was about 9 years old, my parents had a wedding to go to. My mother owned a store, a little small grocery store. At this time, my father had been home a few years, and anyway, she had managed to get a small grocery store. And look at that. The acorns are forming. Soapy oaks. Acorns, I love them. Anyway, my mother had this store, and she had an employee, and I even remember his name. He was a friend of my mother's or father's, I don't really know, but he worked at my mother's store. Our home was just across the street from the store. And so what my mother said, they had this wedding to go to, and for whatever reason, I wasn't invited or wasn't going. And my parents felt I was old enough to be at home by myself. However, they asked Mike to just keep an eye on me, that if I came over to the store, to give me whatever I wanted, and just to call the house periodically and check on me, which I thought was really nice, I mean, in retrospect, I think it's nice. Back then, I didn't think much about it. Wow. So this was around July 4th. I think it was like, I don't remember the dates exactly, but I know it was right around July 4th. So we'll say it was around July 8th or 9th, okay? It was after. The reason I say that, and the reason I know that, is that I was playing, actually, in my backyard. Like I said, where we lived was just across the street from the store. Not far at all. Not a major street. Pretty good sized street. But anyway, I heard fireworks. Pop, pop, pops. I thought nothing of that, because you hear that sort of thing a lot around July 4th. It's not that unusual. The flags and things you see are just where I'm working on another fence. I thought, I'm going to go over to the store and get a ice cream or a Coke. And I called the store, and Mike didn't answer, so I just decided to walk over to the store. Soon as I got to the door, two guys come running out, knocked me down on the ground. They hit the door so hard going out that it knocked me on the ground so hard that I cried. It scraped my leg up, and I was just kind of freaked out. But I got up, and I was going to go in and tell Mike about these mean customers that just knocked me down. And I saw Mike, and he was bent over. There was like a chest-style ice cream cooler. It's where you keep the drumsticks and the Eskimo pies, and that sounds racist now, doesn't it? But anyway, they had all these different kinds of ice cream and treats. I think they were referred to as sundries back then. And I saw he was leaned over the ice cream box, but in a weird way, like he was reaching down inside it, but not moving. So I walked over to him and said, "Hey, Mike, what are you doing?" And I just pushed his shoulder a little bit, and he slid off onto the floor, and part of his face was gone, and there was blood everywhere. Down inside the ice cream, all over and that's one of the things I remember the most, was the blood on the ice cream. Isn't that weird, the things you think of when you're a kid? Barry, you're getting close to the water. Watch the snapping turtles. So he slid down on the floor, and all I knew to do, I was just a goofy kid, right? But from the other stories that I've told you, I knew a lot for a kid. At that time in my life, I wasn't completely stupid. And what I did was went to my house, I got a washcloth, wet it, and came back and started wiping his face, wiping the blood off. Did I know he was dead? Kind of. I was old enough, obviously at 9, to know what death was. But that same token, I wasn't 100% sure and thought maybe, he could be helped. And anyway, I started wiping the blood off his face with a washcloth. Because my mother had done that during my injuries as a kid, which I won't go into now. But then I heard voices. And one of the cooler doors kind of popped open and then slammed shut, and I could hear voices. What had happened was some men had gone in there and robbed Mike. He tried to fight them, which is the one thing you should never do with people that have guns, and you don't. This is a locust I need to get around, so I'm going to go down around the water. Anyway, he had tried to fight them off. They shot and killed him. They locked the customers that were in the store. There were 2 customers, and they locked them in the vault. I don't know if you can see this little bitty frogs. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit here. But little tiny frogs. They're so little. Anyway, I don't think you can really see them. They're really tiny. Little bitty froggies. I went and opened the vault door. They had stuck a screwdriver. The vault door had a lock on it. Of course, you'd never lock, that with people in it, as a rule, unless you were bad guys, which is what these were. And, wow, the frogs, there's so many of them. I wish you could see these. They're so tiny, I just don't know that they're showing up. Let me zoom out a little. Barry, get out of the water. Look at him, he's in the water. He has no fear of anything. Barry. Okay, I'm sorry. I know I get distracted easily. Squirrel! And I look the other way, right? I let the people out of the cooler, and one of them called the police, and then it was all kind of a blur. I was asked tons of questions, and my parents luckily came home from the wedding not an hour later, and long story short, my parents came to the police station where they were holding me, and I had to look at pictures, mugshots, and that sort of thing, and I really don't know the outcome. I don't know. We moved soon after that, and I don't know the outcome. My mother was kind of traumatized by the whole thing because, well, her employee was murdered in her store, so she didn't really want the store anymore, and we moved. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the house now. That story is I don't know why I felt the need to tell you that. No need. I just thought it was a story about me you might find interesting. It's part of the reason I think that, along with everything else, kind of just, that's what makes us who we are, right? It's those events, the pleasurable things, the joyful things, but also the horrendous things. They leave their marks and they change the way we view things. And I suppose from a young age I learned that things can be really awful, you know? They can be terrible. And yet, I soon discovered in life that we can make things better if we want to. Okay, I've got to climb over a fence here. Moment here. I've got these silly cross fences everywhere. Barry, come on. Barry, come on. Come on, Barry, hurry. Okay. All right, hang on. Barry, come on. Barry, come on. He wants him lifted down here. Come on, Barry. Okay. Stubborn little guy. All right, so we've talked about so much, haven't we? But what I've learned is that there is good to be found. And does the good erase all the bad? Of course it doesn't, nor can it. If you look at some of the most famous paintings, and I've used this analogy before with my employees, but I think because it's a good one, that if you even look at some of the finest painters, some of the most skilled artists, the Renaissance painters and such, that many times if you were to clean away the paint of the painting, you would find underneath another painting that they were unhappy with. One that maybe to them didn't meet their standard. Maybe was, in their ideas, a bad painting. And they got do-overs, right? They got to try it again. And that worked for them. And people love the work that they do. And to me, a lot of life is like that. We do get do-overs. Now, can we redo our childhood and wipe away the horrors that may have happened to some of us? We can't. And that's sad and that's unfortunate that we can't. Maybe. Because I will tell you that some of the things that I've seen in my life, and there are many of these type of stories. Ask me sometime about the plane crash. I've seen a lot of things in my life that many people haven't seen. Is that good or bad? Well, in some ways, I can tell you it makes me more empathetic to the pain of others. If someone else tells me a story that maybe even remotely relates to an event that I've been through in my life, I can be more empathetic and understanding because I've been there. Now, I don't mean that you have to be where someone else has been to be empathetic. That's not what I'm implying. But it sure does give you a really good foundation to offer your own personal view of whatever they're going through. The child rape that I had is not going to be like what you or your cousins may have had, or your aunts, or your parents, or even your children. I hope not. Any of the pains or horrendous things that have happened, no. Are my events just like those? No, they're not. No two are exactly the same. Just like soaps, right? We can all make oatmeal, honey, milk soaps, but you know, no two are just alike. Well, I guess if you tried really hard and emulate the exact way someone did theirs, you could do that. Hi, Daisy Kitty. Hi, Daisy. Hi, Precious. How's my girl? You're such a good girl. Oh, she likes to be picked up. One of the few kitties that actually likes to be picked up. Hi, Daisy. Anyway, so that's sort of my story, part of my story. And if you got anything out of this, great. And if you didn't, maybe in the next one you will. Okay, Barry, time to go in. Come on. Come on, Barry. Look who I have. It's Daisy Kitty. Hurry, hurry. See, he sees Daisy and he comes running. He loves Daisy Kitty. They're real buddies. Okay, yeah. He loves sticking his nose places he shouldn't. But they do play a lot and run and do all their things. Anyway, thank you all so much. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I'll see you back soon. Goodbye.